Hi everyone. In this short video segment, we're going to cover some of the basics for the creation of a professional cover letter. I'm sure many of you have done this in the past, but there are some individuals in the course that have never had the opportunity, or it has never been required of them to actually submit a cover letter for a position of employment. So I think it's important to kind of go over some of the very basic steps that are necessary in the creation of this document. So first, we'll start from the very top. Cover letter should indicate your information as an applicant. I recommend obviously including your name and your address or city location if possible. Some individuals will choose to include their contact information as well. So that could include your phone number as well as your email address if you would like. So again, initially in the top left, you'll see, for instance, Jane's student indicated with their location immediately underneath. The second component to your cover letter should indicate the date for which you are actually applying and writing the cover letter for a given position. So in this case, March 2nd, 2017 is the time that you're writing this cover letter and applying for a role. And then the third piece, this is all kind of the header part of the document. The third piece should be the employer name and the address of the employer. So this helps to indicate to the employer that you know specifically that you are applying for their company's position, and it also helps you in the sense that you can be specific when you outline the employer name and the employer address, because there could be a company hiring for multiple positions at once, and if you clearly identify the name of the employer and the contact information, including the address of that employer, it will be much easier to identify which position you are actually applying for. So that is just the header of the document in basic format, again starting with your personal contact information, the current date that you're writing the letter and completing the application, and then the employer's contact information. Now I will say optionally, a lot of individuals will choose to include their personal information in the same format that they have on their personal resume. So you could do that as well. So for instance, if you wanted to list that, you could list Jane's student in the header of this document in the exact same format that your resume has, and some people choose to do that just for the consistency of the two documents. Either way is perfectly fine, and that's up to you to choose. Then we get to the salutation piece of the cover letter. I always recommend be as specific as possible. So if you know exactly who you are applying to, if it is a department, if it is an individual, or if it is a group of individuals and you have the contact information associated with them, I highly recommend being as specific as possible and including those names to show that this is a very customized document. Now, if you are applying to a position and you have no idea who the recipient would be, and you don't have any connections at that company, for instance, then you can obviously use the standard go-to to whom it may concern. This is I call just a backup option if you don't know who you are writing specifically. Then we move to the introduction piece of your cover letter. I often start cover letters with the indication, please accept this letter as a statement of my most sincere interest in blank, and you would indicate the position, the role, or whatever opportunity it is you are applying for. And then again, in the interest of being specific, I recommend indicating that upon learning about the opportunity to work for blank, could be Procter & Gamble, GE, for instance, and as a software application developer, I was incredibly excited. So that is a chance for you to again personalize the document and ensure that the employer knows that you are applying for them specifically and for a certain position that they are currently hiring for. And then the final piece of the introduction I like to include personally is almost like a thesis sentence. If you remember writing argumentative or expository essays back in the day, this is very similar to that. It gives you a chance to outline why you might be a good candidate for consideration. And that is up to you as an individual. There's no right or wrong way to do that, but again, I do recommend almost creating a thesis and telling them why you are a good candidate for the particular role they are hiring for. Then we move to the body of the document, and I usually have 2 to 3 paragraphs at least that comprise the body of my cover letters when I write them. I think it's a good place to start off with personal accomplishments, and specifically how your personal accomplishment pertains to the position you're applying for. I've seen a lot of people make mistakes in terms of indicating personal accomplishments that they've had over the course of their career, but if it doesn't have a connection to the role that you're actually applying for, employers are sometimes confused and they don't see the direct connection for your accomplishment and whatever their needs may be. So again, it's important to include 1 to 2 important accomplishments that you've had in your career, but also be specific and indicate how it pertains to the position you're applying for. And then I recommend in the paragraph 3 component, how are you actually going to produce for the company? So based on the job description, based on your knowledge of the company, the needs that they currently possess, what are you actually going to do to create a value add component for that company? And be specific. This shouldn't be a very general skill set or a very general statement. This should be something specifically that you extract from the job description and the needs that you know the company possesses based on your research on the front end. So how can you produce, how can you be some type of value add to the company in the role that you are applying for? And then finally, your closing should kind of recap your thesis, restate your thesis, and then thank the employer for their time and their consideration. So that is the body of the document, and then the closing of the actual, I would say, completion component of the document. I generally write sincerely. It's often good to sign your actual name. And then use that as an opportunity to again reiterate who you are. So you can list your name, Jane student, Master of Science in Information Technology candidate, University of Cincinnati. So this would be a great way for you to finalize the document. So again, this is a very basic cover letter structure, and it is based on the structure provided in your textbook for the class by recommendations from Matthew Moran. So again, just to recap, we have the header information, we have the salutation, we have the body of the document, and then we have the closing piece of the document, including your signature and your student identifying information. So this was hopefully a helpful overview, and I recommend watching this video again if you're going through and you need some additional help, as well as referring to the Moran text and the specific chapter that covers the cover letter, chapter 9.